So you're thinking about your happiness and your freedom, and you're thinking about solar energy, maybe going off grid, grid system, off grid system, and you're just wondering what in the heck is the right thing for you to do. So let's talk about it and give you some great ideas. Live a happy, freedom life. Boy, whew. I'm kind of wishing I was inside sitting in front of the wood stove right now. What a difference 2 days makes. 48 hours. 2 days ago, we were flirting, bumping with 80 degrees. I was outside here in just my t-shirt. Today I'm all bundled up. It's like 39 right now and freezing cold. We're in that convergence zone where we live, where you get the hot muggy air coming up from the south some days, and then a couple days later you get the cold, blustery, wintry air from the north coming down, and we're right on that tug-of-war battleground area, so it's pretty amazing. Ooh, big truck with mud tires. So anyway, you're thinking of solar energy, and you know, your city friends might be thinking return on investment. So, you know, there's a lot that goes on with you being happy and with your freedom, and thinking about how you want to participate in the rat race system and how much you want to be independent on your own. And, you know, for example is, you know, our chicken eggs cost us about $10 a dozen. So even though the price is sky high at the store, it's still way cheaper than us raising our own eggs. And the food in our garden, our tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers and things, you know, they obviously would cost a lot less just going to the store and buying them than our time and energy and effort that we put into raising them in our garden. Probably our apples and pears and peaches probably don't cost much, because other than a little bit of pruning on the trees or that, we don't really do much to take care of fruit trees. So, you know, they're probably not too bad. And of course the wild things that we pick. So anyway, you're thinking of solar energy. So there are three basic systems that you can think of with solar energy. And the most common system is the on-the-grid system. It's the least expensive, easiest to get installed. You know, if you have electricity at your house and you're thinking of, you know, adding in or, you know, getting some independence with solar energy, an on-the-grid system is the first thing that people think of. And again, it's the least expensive system. You get your panels, you get your, you know, inverter controller unit, and it has, you know, there's different words for it, and I don't want to get technical here. This is just kind of an overview today. Is some sort of a limiter type of situation. And the reason for that is basically you become part of the grid as a producer. So your panels make electricity. If you need the electricity in your house to, you know, operate your devices, you're using the electricity. And any electricity that you're producing that you're not using feeds back into the grid, and, you know, technically we say that your meter spins backwards, if you will. The downside to all of that is when the grid goes down, your system goes down too. So even though you have solar panels and an inverter and you're generating electricity, because you're tied into the grid, when the grid goes down, your power goes down too. And that's, of course, for the safety of the line workers and things. You can't be feeding electricity. They think a wire's dead, and you're juicing it from your solar panels at your house. You don't have any batteries or anything like that. You just have your solar panels, your inverter to convert the panel DC electricity to house current, 120 volt AC current. And again, the grid goes down, you go down too. The other end of the spectrum there is your off-grid system where you're completely off-grid. You know, maybe you buy a piece of land that has no, holy moly, is for living on a short road with, it's a lot of traffic today. So the off-grid system is you have your solar panels, you have your inverter to convert the DC panel current to 120 volt AC current. Now you need a controller unit that tells, you know, the electricity what to do, because now you have a big expensive bank of batteries to store your power in. So during the night, and that, so you charge up your batteries and you float them up, and then you trickle charge them, and the controller handles all of that, and you've got your batteries. So that's your off-grid system, and you're completely separated. You're not connected to the grid at all. It's you making your own electricity, and that's it. And then of course you can have a system in the middle where you're tied to the grid and you're off-grid, and then that takes some more electronics, so that when the grid goes down, your off-grid system disconnects from the power source, so you're not backfeeding out through the system, so that you can have your own electricity from your panels and from your batteries, and you disconnect from the grid when the grid goes down. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's all fine and dandy, but you know, what about the cost of all of this? And if you look at it from a return on investment standpoint, right now today, it pretty much doesn't make any sense. Same thing as our $10 a dozen eggs or our, you know, $5 tomatoes from the garden. Is if you just look at it from a accountant type of perspective, it makes no sense. We're on the grid here at our homestead today. And way back in the 70s, I actually went to college to study environmental sciences and alternative energy and, you know, good old Earth Day back in the 70s. And that's what I went to school to study, was alternative. And I was going to buy a 40-acre piece of land up in Wisconsin, because that's the way they sold it back in the 70s, is they sold 40-acre parcels that was, you know, you were completely off the grid and you built your home that was self-sustained and all of that. But of course, the rat race sucks you in and you end up going in a different direction. So back in 2005, we sold everything, as you know, if you've been here for a while, if you're brand new. We sold everything and we moved on to a sailboat, and we were, you know, off the grid for 9 years. We would, you know, pull into marinas and connect to the power, but a lot of times for months on end, you know, we were on our own. And we finally decided that, you know, we wanted something a little bit, because we're getting older now and that. So, you know, we moved to our homestead, and we've been here 9 years now. So we're on the grid here, and the reason for that is it's a wooded lot. You can see behind me all the trees and everything. I don't want to put solar panels in the middle of our front yard. And we've cut back on our electricity so much that our bill's about $75 a month. And then the other component to that, because I really considered going off grid when we moved here and being self-sufficient electricity-wise. But, you know, again, our bill's $75 a month. It's a little bit more in the summer because we do run a window air conditioner. It's mostly to take the humidity out of the air because it's so muggy here. And the other factor is right down the road from us on our little short road that all this crazy traffic's going by today for some reason, is the county has a water facility down there, a big pumping station. So they keep the power lines trimmed. They got a big diesel generator down there. The minute the power goes down on our road, the county knows about it because their alarms go off. And, you know, they're right out here getting it back online. Back in, before we moved on our sailboat, when we lived up north, we lived at the end of a dead-end road, a little one lane, like you had to pull in the ditch if a car was coming the other way. We lived at, there was one house beyond us on this little dead-end road, and in the wintertime, the power went out all the time. A tree branch would come down on the line. We'd be without power hours. Sometimes, almost every winter, we could guarantee we'd be without power for 2 or 3 days because nobody cared about us where we lived. So having your own energy, electricity might make sense in that kind of situation. But where we are here with our $75 a month bill and the power water company right down the road from us, it kind of just doesn't make sense for us right now. And because if we've invested in like a $10,000 system, I mean, if you put that money in a money market or whatever, you're going to be making $40 a month or so on your investment. Batteries are expensive. If you buy 10 batteries at $250 a piece, you're $2,500 into batteries. Even if you take, perfect care of them, what are you going to get? 8 years out of them? So, that's another $25 a month. And you can buy more expensive batteries that last longer. You can buy less expensive batteries that last less, but you're going to be in that price range where your batteries are going to be costing you about $25 a month to maintain them to replacement cost. So we're up to $65 a month, and that's if everything goes perfect and connections go bad, water gets in the system that wreaks havoc. You got to replace a wire, again, a connector, a bracket on something, maybe a tree branch comes down, you got to sweep the snow off in the winter. So solar systems are not put it up and forget it kind of thing. So that's all the things, the thoughts that you want to be thinking about in your head that play into it. And you do it for your happiness. You want to be happy in life. You want your freedom in life. So those are the sort of issues that when you're thinking about solar, on the grid, off the grid, call it a hybrid system where you've got the best of both worlds. It's an expensive investment, just like chickens and gardens and things are expensive, and only you can decide if the return is going to be worth it for you, if that independence, that freedom, that self-sufficiency, that happiness, that knowing that you can provide for yourself. Because what happens if they decide to shut the grid down? What happens if they decide to freeze your bank accounts or whatever? When we live in this digital world, there's an awful lot of centralized power, and we've certainly been learning that in the last few years, that how much power is wielded by our government and that the control to tell you what to do in your life, where to go, when to stay home, and all of those kinds of things. So I hope you subscribe and watch another video. I'm thinking of making a series of this if people are finding this interesting. So let me know.